All right, the time has come again. This is the time to clean up the fins on our heat pump, which is something that I try to do every year. And I'm just going to show you how to do it. This will keep your heat pump going more efficiently than maybe it would be if you just let it get all junked up. By the way, this works with old air conditioners as well. Anything really that has aluminum fins on it. And so we're going to go ahead and get started with that. The first thing we need is a couple items. So what we need is a pump sprayer, and I've used this for a variety of things, so I got to get that cleaned out. And some of the Pro Green. I have a little bit left in here. It's usually done at a 3-to-1 ratio if you've got a lot of junk on your fins, or a 10-to-1 ratio if it's pretty light and not too bad. But the first thing that we need to do is turn off the heat pump. If you can get in there, go ahead and do so and try to clean out as much of the leaves and stuff that you can find. But what we're primarily focusing on right now is whatever this buildup is on the back side. So one thing that you can do is you can look for any of the imperfections in the material that got like dented in, or like in this case, there's just a piece of debris on there. But if you find any spots, like I'll see some down here, where the aluminum has been dented by sticks or debris or something bumping against it, that can also be fixed. All right, this is a little tool, and if you don't have one of those, you might be able to use a brush like this, although this is a little bit more kind of a backup plan for me. I don't even know where I got that. But this tool is specific to this task. So what it is a whole bunch of hardened steel tines. I think they're stainless, and there's a double row of them, and they're held together with this little sliding clip, so you can adjust the depth of your fins, or to the depth of your fins. And all they do is they slide in between the fins. Kind of see how that might work there. They slide in between the fins and allow you to kind of brush them out. So we're going to give that a go. Just the before shot, I was able to clean up most of the other spots. If you're an HVAC tech, you're probably looking at this and going, what is going on with that heat pump? This heat pump was on this house when we bought it. So yeah. It's worked for about 5 years now as our primary heat source and our primary cooling source, and is severely underpowered for the size of our house. But it does work, and I've kept it going. So here we go, next step. So first things first, you're going to want to rinse out your sprayer if you haven't already done so. This doesn't have to be complex or complicated. It depends on what you had in there. If you had an acid-based material in there, like you were spraying vinegar or bleach or something like that, you might want to give it a good rinse because you don't want to corrode your system. In this case, I didn't have anything like that in here, so we're just going to get to it. Now, this is a 2-gallon sprayer, and the bucket here, or the bottle, says that this is a 10-to-1 dilution ratio with water for light soils. The back of that heat pump, I think it has overspray on it from when the house was sprayed couple years ago, and I don't know if that's something that I can get off like this, but we're going to try. So I'm going to do a little bit stronger than a 10-to-1 on this, but it'll be close. So let's go ahead and crack this open. Thankfully, there's a child safety on here, just in case you got any kids or pets that want to open it, in case you have a monkey in your garage that likes drinking Pro Green. All right, let's see what that looks like. It's not too much. You don't need a huge amount of this if you're only doing one. So doesn't need to fill this all up or anything, but I'm basically just eyeballing it. So at this point, yeah, I guess we're just going to see. I'm going to do a 5-to-1 ratio on this. It's about midway between the two recommended things. All right, I'm going to call that 1, 2, 3, 4, somewhere in there. I know it's not very precise. If you want to be precise, use your measuring cups, but I can always do a second application. Okay, there we go. That little bubble that you can see there, that's the soap stuff or whatever it is coming through. And don't worry about getting this on the electronics in the heat pump. They get wet all the time. Well, the electronics don't, but they're hidden into a little spot that's tucked away. You might have to worry about mice, but definitely not water. All right, we're going to go ahead and spray it along the back side here, which is really hard for me to show on camera, but I'm going to do it pretty heavily because that's where the most stuff is built up. And they do say to use gloves and mask and everything while you're doing this, which you're welcome to do. It's just a really strong soap from what I can tell, though. Okay. And it is bubbling up a little bit there. That's good. We're going to do a little bit more along the side. Now that the bubbles are coming in, you can really see them. And yeah. Now I did get a little bit on my hand. I'll let you know if it burns, but so far, nothing. Allow 3 to 5 minutes to achieve maximum foaming and cleaning, then thoroughly flush it with clean water. And yeah, thoroughly rinse it. So we're going to give it a few more minutes now, and then we're just going to rinse it off with a sprayer and call it a day. It's been about 8 minutes, so should be good to go. Just going to rinse it off and see how much of this we can clear off and see how it looks. Stuff on the side's always a good indicator. Got any clearing action on that paint. I am using clean water right now, just so you know. So any bubbles you see coming off are bubbles that are foaming right off of the rinse here. It's nice to see. And we're going to go ahead and come around to the front and just rinse that off from the front as well, since I did spray some in the inside there. You could do this with a garden hose. I just didn't want to have to unwrap it. I know this heat pump looks like it's not level, but I promise you it is. The wall of the house is not level. Okay, so there it is. It's all cleaned off, and those are the tools I used. The stuff I used there is Pro Green, not sponsored, just something that I use. It says indoor coil cleaner, but you know, works on the outside ones too. And then HDTX, I don't even know, whatever. That was just one of the sprayers that I used. So yeah, looks like it turned out okay. And as far as the back is concerned, it's still got that hazing on there from the paint, but it did clean off quite a bit of dust and debris. And so I'm satisfied with that. So the tools you're going to need is a pump sprayer, the juice that we were talking about earlier, which I'll put in the description, and then these 2 brushes. This one might not be necessary, but it's a good one to have. And I'll see if I can find the source for it. But definitely get one of these little suckers, because if you've got a car or an air conditioner or anything that has, or even your refrigerator, freezer that has these little tines on the condensers, you can use these to clean up any of those bumps or dents or anything that your kids make, that you make. All right, so there we are. This project was a little bit different than the ones that I've done in the last couple weeks, but it does need to get done, and so here we are. If you wanted to use an outdoor coil cleaner, you could. I prefer the indoor coil cleaner because it's a little bit milder, so if it blows around and gets in your face, it's not going to give you like skin rashes or anything like that. So Pro Green indoor coil cleaner, and of course you can use any pump sprayer you want. I prefer the ones that are rated for bleach. And this is what happened. So why are we doing this? Well, primarily because if those coils are cleaned off like that, they can run more efficiently. They can evacuate or evaporate, or evaporate's not the right word. They can exhaust heat or exhaust cool, depending on what they're supposed to be doing. In the winter time, when you use a heat pump, what it's actually doing is finding every little modicum of heat or temperature shift in the atmosphere and boiling a gas, usually a gas that boils at a much lower temperature than, say, water might boil. And they're sending that little bit of heat into your unit on the inside to then send to the house. And it's a condenser, compressor, and compression and expansion scenario, which I can get into if you want to know about how heat pumps work. But the point is that those coils on the back are fundamentally the way that we transfer that temperature from one side to the other. There's no duct work, there's nothing like that. We're not actively heating up and generating heat. We're just moving it from one side to the other and back. In the summertime, you're taking the heat out of the house and exhausting it to the outside of the house through the same system. So this is essentially the thing that you need to do on a seasonal basis if you want to keep your condenser working really well on the outside. And yeah, even though this thing is undersized and probably underpowered for the size of our house, it works really well enough and keeps our house warm enough in the winter to stay safe and stay functional, I guess. It's not comfy, I'll say that. We run around 61 degrees on average on the inside during the winter. I know a lot of people would freak out by that temperature, but it is what it is when you have an old house. If you like content like this, please like, subscribe, and join the others who have done so already. Cheers to those who have. I appreciate it. It means the world to me. So we're going to continue growing this channel and trying some new things. And with that heat pump outside, one of the things that I'm going to be trying is ways to generate more heat passively around it in the wintertime. I mentioned in the video that that is undersized for our house. It came with the house. I didn't put it on, and I do want to replace it in the future when budget becomes available to do so. The issue, though, is that in that particular unit, it's efficient at transferring that heat, like I mentioned, down to about 28 degrees Fahrenheit. Once it gets below 28 degrees Fahrenheit, then the gas, whatever kind of gas they have in there, doesn't really boil very effectively. And so it doesn't transfer the heat. It gets very cold and it ends up using up quite a lot of power. And the whole point about a heat pump is that it can be a very efficient way to warm or cool your house if you have good insulation, which we don't, and I'm working on that. If I had that same heat pump on this barn, I could use that to heat this barn using less, well, probably less power than a hairdryer for sure, but less power than like half a hairdryer because of how efficient it could be. It's about 800 watts. It could heat this barn. But with the house, we really do need something that's about double that size. One of the tricks that I have that I've used on a seasonal basis in the wintertime is heat tape. Now, since you really only need to have a little bit of heat to keep the temperature of those coils above 28 degrees, then I was using heat tape, the kind that you use for snow melt on the eaves of your house, just to maintain the temperature of that above a certain percent or above a certain temperature. So if it got down to like 28 degrees, it would kick on until the coil had warmed up to about 32 degrees. That kept it from freezing over, especially since it's in an area where a lot of snow and ice sloughs off the roof and dumps into that spot, and I do have to clean it off quite regularly in the wintertime. There are some other things I'd like to try. Like I saw on the outside of a municipal building that they had put kind of this greenhouse plastic stuff that I've been using elsewhere in other projects. They had put this over the top of their heat pump far enough away that it still had plenty of airflow. But I thought that was a neat idea because what they're doing is they're trapping any of that solar radiation into the space directly above or behind their heat pump. So I'm going to take some of the excess materials that I have around like this and a couple other things and see if I can build a little kind of a heat dome around the top of the heat pump. And that'll be something I can show you if it works. I can show you if it doesn't work, I suppose, too. My name is John Decker. Thanks so much for watching this video. If you have a heat pump and you have the time, go out and clean it. Super simple, super easy, get it done. Like and subscribe. Let me know in the comments if you have a heat pump and your experience with them. And if you've got any tips and tricks for making them warmer in the wintertime. I'll see you on the next one. Bye.